On Monday, the prosecution in the historic Donald Trump hush money trial could be wrapping up its case. And with a potentially short defense presentation to follow, the judge has the end game in sight. He is saying he's ready to work early, late, whatever is needed to get to closing arguments and jury deliberations, which means next week we could be barreling toward the unprecedented scenario of a former president and a current candidate awaiting a criminal verdict. And joining us now, retired New York State Supreme Court Justice Jill Konviser. So, Judge, thanks so much for being here. In your view, what's the pace of this trial? Is it faster than you would expect? Because Judge Merchan certainly seems to think like we need to keep things moving much faster.
I think all judges want to keep things moving. We want to be as respectful as we can to the jurors because they have other commitments. We want to keep to a schedule, and he's done that. Criminal trials, if anything is predictable about them, is that they're unpredictable. And so you do never know the exact timeline, but he has towed the mark and kept everyone on schedule. People have been on time. The jurors have been on time, showing a great deal of respect for the court, which has been very helpful to keep things on schedule.
We've been talking about all of the Trump allies from, the U.S. House of Representatives who've been showing up in court, for example. Does the judge pay any attention to that?
No. I mean, he knows, I'm sure. It's a public courtroom. People walk in and out all the time. You know if the press is there. You know if there's a senator there. It's part of the case. He's going to do his job regardless. He's not going to be stared down or intimidated by them as they might think. It's actually, they're descending on the courthouse like locusts. I just don't know what the benefit is if they're auditioning for vice president. Good for them, but I don't think it's going to affect Judge Merchan in any way, shape, or form.
Let's talk about jury instructions, how they might affect jurors' thinking, and what will you be watching for?
Well, jury instructions are pretty common in every case. There are very few things that will go beyond that with which we always do. You could go online and you can find the jury instructions that will matter in this case. I think what you will look for is the credibility section, which the judge will painstakingly go through what that means, that the jurors are the triers of fact and they decide issues of credibility. They decide whether to believe a witness or not. They decide what weight to give his or her testimony, and ultimately they decide whether the defendant is guilty or not guilty. They'll be told what to consider in terms of credibility. They'll be told if a witness was untruthful as far as they're concerned, they can dismiss their entire testimony or accept that much that they believe was truthfully and accurately given. But it's their domain.
And is there anything specific to this case that you'll be listening for in the jury instructions? Any particular issues that have caught your attention?
Well, I think some of it will be, there's always a charge conference before the charge is given where the lawyers will say, Judge, we want you to give this, we want you to say that, we want a limiting instruction, and that will be interesting to see what the parties may want. But otherwise, I think it will be pretty banal, pretty garden variety.
And we are expecting a limiting instruction, at least on the Stormy Daniels testimony related to the alleged sexual encounter. So we'll be watching for the specifics to that. I do want to ask you about something, just to get your take on kind of the pressure that these judges are facing, the threats these judges are facing, the vitriol they're facing, Judge Merchan, in this particular case. Reuters has some new reporting on the connection between Trump's comments about judges and the threats they get. It found Trump posted or reposted on Truth Social 129 attacks against the judges presiding over his cases between March and the end of April. And in this same period, across 3 popular pro-Trump websites, they found 152 posts calling for the beating or murder of Judges Merchan, Engoron, and Scott McAfee in Georgia. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I don't think it's going to surprise you that I think it is unbelievably shameful. These judges are doing their jobs. If you do not like their rulings, there are appellate avenues for appeals to be taken, and judges' rulings are reviewed and reviewed and reviewed. They are doing their jobs like anybody else, and for anyone everyone can have an opinion, but to threaten someone and to descend on the courthouse and try to intimidate is it's anti-American, and it's really, quite frankly, disappointing and disgusting.
Judge, thank you so much for offering your perspective and helping us understand, too, this trial process. It's great to have you here.